Welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. And since today's story is about a poorly ran homeowner association, I have also included a second story from a brand new subreddit to this channel called r/NoHOA. If you enjoy this new subreddit, then tell me in the comments and hit that like button, and I'll keep the no HOA stories coming. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I put a trampoline in my backyard in early 2017. I have 3 young boys, and we have enjoyed it immensely. My neighbor, the HOA president at the time, went to sell his house in spring of 2018, and his realtor said the trampoline in my backyard might be a detriment to getting top dollar for his home. So he convinced the neighbor on the other side of my house to complain as well. Out of the blue, I received a message from the HOA property management that the neighbors complained, and I would need to submit a form to get it approved. Intermission. What's sad is that I was friendly with both of these people. They had been in my home. They could have talked to me face to face. With one of the neighbors, I paid for our shared fence at her request, since her neighbor on her other side wouldn't contribute to their shared fence, another board member, and a human piece of garbage. I would have been willing to dig a hole for the trampoline to hide it more, or purchase a new one with elastic bands rather than springs to make it quieter. Both of these options are cheaper than getting a lawyer. But nobody asked. Nobody came to me to have a face-to-face, heart-to-heart discussion about their concerns. A few ironies. These are 5-bedroom homes. Clearly people with kids are going to move in, and they're going to be noisy in their backyard with or without play equipment. The guy who sold his home smoked like a chimney. I don't think my trampoline should have been his top concern. The people who ended up buying his home are a great family with 2 kids, who don't care about toys in other people's backyards. My neighbors have both raised kids to adulthood. One of them had 2 very active boys. When I pointed this out to her, the words that actually came out of her mouth were, "I know it's challenging to raise boys, but we're at different stages of our lives." As if that justified her trying to screw me. Back to the story. I filled out the form and sent it in. The Architectural Review Committee denied it a month later. I appealed the decision and met with the board in August. They sent me a letter and said it was in violation. I asked which rules I violated. They never sent me a letter, so I asked again a week ago. The property manager was adamant that she sent the letter, but I asked for proof. She forwarded an email where she put my name in the to field after the fact. I had strong suspicion it was after the fact due to the following reasons. An HOA meeting was mentioned that never took place. The response to my questions varied in color, indicating they had been edited at different times. She responded immediately to my request for proof by indicating she would forward the email, but then took an hour, presumably editing a draft she never sent. She cited a rule early in the email, but then cited an additional rule later that superseded the first. The first cited rule could have simply been omitted. The message was not marked as forwarded message at the top, and the send time didn't include seconds. None of these things are a smoking gun, but they are suspicious. I asked the other people in the to field if they received a copy of the email with my name in the address field. The only honest member of the board replied that he hadn't. The rest remained silent because they didn't want to look like they and the property manager dropped the ball. Intermission. If you're curious why the board didn't like my trampoline, here's the rationale provided in the letter that was never sent. Due to the close proximity of the homes to each other and the small yards, the trampoline is unsightly to the homes surrounding it. Realtors for those homes surrounding you have stated that it's a distraction to selling homes and is lowering the home values of those around it. There have also been neighbor complaints regarding the noise level, which creates those homeowners to be unable to enjoy their homes. They are also unable to use certain portions of their homes while the trampoline is being used. My kids all weigh under 35 pounds. They go to bed at 7 p.m. and don't jump on the trampoline in the morning before 10 a.m. My neighbors bought homes 10 feet away from mine. What did they expect? Back to the story. The year-end meeting was scheduled for yesterday, and 4 board positions were up for election. I got 3 of my friends on the street to run with me. I went door to door every day for a week and spoke with the majority of homeowners about their discontent with the street. I got a third of the community to sign proxy forms stating that I would vote on their behalf. I went to the meeting last night and put these fools on blast. I listed calmly the ways the current board was failing the community and my plan to right their wrongs. The vote was a landslide in favor of myself and my friends getting elected. One awful board member remains, but he's the minority. We fired the property manager, who was uncommunicative and flat out dishonest. The trampoline endures. The only bummer is I now have to manage a street which includes some legit crazy people. But this whole episode has convinced my wife that we will never live in an HOA again, which I count as a huge victory in addition to the trampoline remaining where it is today. Alright guys, this next story is coming from r/NoHOA, and let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed the story or not. Let's go. Quit HOA. Home doubles in value. About 20 years ago, my uncle acquired/bought an apartment in a new fancy condo. Each floor was separated in 2 apartments, except for the top floor, which was a single apartment more than double the size, with a private attic. All other units had a storage area in the basement. He got the top floor. The building had a large common hall and a large yard all around it, so the owners decided to create an HOA to maintain the common areas and protect property value. My uncle has always been an independent man, so he wasn't keen on the idea, but he recognized it was necessary. However, he proposed an article in the statute allowing any member to recede from the HOA by paying a contribution and entering a limited agreement. People under this contract would not be in the HOA, but would be required to contribute to common expenses, such as lighting, cleaning, administration, etc., and maintenance. Though in this case, the HOA was required to confront the respective quotes for the job before proceeding. Since the votes were based on surface owned, and he thus had the swing votes, the rule was included in the statute. A couple of years go by without a hitch. The HOA works as planned. A couple more units are sold. Everything is fine and dandy. Enter Karen. My uncle describes Karen as your worst high school teacher, with a resting beef face like she was constantly smelling sewage. In reality, she was a plain woman in her 50s, dirty blonde, single, a pocket dog and 2 cats, with a mildly annoyed expression frozen on her face and the fashion sense of Dolores Umbridge. Although, after starting to read Reddit posts, I'm having a hard time not superimposing the classic Karen hairstyle on her. She was one of the original owners, but never had much interaction with the others. The first time my uncle took any notice of her was when she was trying to introduce a rule preventing children from playing in the common hall, because their rowdiness and the prospective damage they could cause might decrease property value. My uncle didn't like participating in the meetings, and he didn't have kids yet, but that time he intervened, saying that he'd rather have happy kids around, even if that meant losing a bit of value, and proposed creating an emergency fund for accidental damage instead. Karen was outvoted. While they were leaving the conference room, she threw a look at him like she was about to breathe fire on him. He disliked and distrusted her from that moment on. Karen tried several times to pass more restrictive rules, but she kept getting outvoted, thanks to my uncle's double vote. But at the time, she was doing something else. She was buying additional units and forcing her rules onto her tenants, including those regarding the common areas. So that meant that her tenants' kids couldn't play with the other kids in the common hall, for instance. That one was nearly impossible to enforce, and led to a lot of complaints. Over time, thanks to her by now 4 votes, Karen got a seat in the HOA. That was an alarm bell for my uncle, who filed to leave the HOA as per his own article on the same day. And not a moment too soon, that article was canceled even before his request was processed. The HOA then initially denied his request, and he had to sue and go to arbitration to prove he had filed his request before the rule was expunged. But from that moment, he was free. Over the next couple of years, he had to go to arbitration twice more. Once because the HOA demanded payment for a renovation without giving him the chance to present an alternative quote. And another time because Karen and her newfound clique kept harassing him with fines he didn't have to pay. He won both times, and Karen was beyond hate. Every time they met each other, she looked at him with such a contempt he actually started fearing for his safety. In this period, Karen's increasingly restrictive rules had caused a high turnover for both of tenants and owners. Even if everything was still in pristine condition, Karen was very good at that, the HOA rules were a hard sell. This had decreased the value of the apartments a lot, and Karen used this to buy even more lots. She ended up with 6 in total. When my aunt got pregnant, they decided that the condo was not really kid-friendly anymore, so they decided to sell. As I mentioned, the property value had dropped in the recent years, but evidently not my uncle's apartment. When he put it on the local market, he advertised it as free from local HOA. He ended up selling it to one of the former residents for almost double the price per square foot than any other apartment in the building. Happy end? Wait, there's more. A couple of weeks after moving, my uncle received a call from the very distraught new owner, saying the members of the HOA are harassing him, and that Karen has threatened to sue him because the HOA has a new rule that all new owners must sign up for the HOA. My uncle says, "So? You're not part of the HOA. You don't need to give a crap about the rules they make." The new owner pauses as he processes the information, and then he starts laughing like crazy. They chatted a bit, and the new owner, after enduring it for years, was quite happy about the prospect of messing with Karen and the powerless HOA. The end. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. Have yourself an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.